Okay, we're ready when you are.
I'm going to call this meeting of the Seward City Council to order, even for people in the hallway. Even for people in the hallway. This is Monday, November 25th at 7 p.m. Chief, would you please lead us all in Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Roll call for tonight's meeting. Wells?
Here.
Osenga?
Here.
Kreitz?
Here.
Finch?
Here.
Barnwell?
Here.
Warner?
Here.
And Mayor McClure.
Here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Okay, and as mayor, I'm going to move something forward here. I'm going to move the proclamation for the Seward High School girls cross-country team to our first order of business. So thank you, Mr. Bickling. If you can call all those people in, and we'll get this over with for them before the public. And so if you guys want to come up here and kind of line up, and I'll read the proclamation behind you. And then we have copies for all of you. But this way they can see your pretty faces while I read. And it hides me, so that's good. Okay, here's the proclamation. Whereas on September 28th, the Seward High School girls cross-country team placed first in the region at Wasilla High School, having all 7 runners in the top 15. And whereas Olive Jordan took first in Region 3 Division II race and was awarded Athlete of the Year as a freshman. And whereas on October 5th at the state meet, their 5 scoring girls were in the top 13 places, including a 3rd place podium by freshman Olive Jordan. And whereas Coach Rachel Dow was named 2024 Region 3 Coach of the Year for the 2nd year in a row. And whereas the Seward High School girls cross-country team successfully defended their Division II state title, and whereas the Seward High School girls cross-country team won the state title for the 3rd year in a row, a first in Seward High School history for boys or girls. Now therefore, I, Sue McClure, Mayor of the City of Seward, Alaska, do hereby congratulate the Seward Seahawks girls cross-country team and coaches Rachel Dow and Ron Hemstock, and commend them for their Division II state championship, dated this 25th day of November 2024, signed by myself, the mayor. And I have copies for all of you, and I think we should applaud. I want somebody to say something from this.
Thank you so much for having us here and acknowledging this amazing accomplishment. I'm so proud of these girls. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been a really great opportunity running with Rachel, and it's been so fun, and so I'm really glad that we've been able to do so well.
And thank you for coming to the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's what I was waiting for.
Okay, our next order of business is citizen comments on any subject except items scheduled for public hearing. There is one public hearing item, is the second public hearing on the budget. And there's a sign-up sheet for this. Those who have signed up get first crack. There's a 36-minute total elapsed time, and if there are still people wanting to speak after the sign-ups, I'll take showing of hands. You get 3 minutes each. When you come up, we'll need you to give your name and whether you live inside or outside the city limits. With all of that, Mr. Clerk, who's signed up?
There are 13 people signed in to speak. First on the list is Bruce Jaffa.
Okay, Bruce. And we all know who you are, but we still need it for the record, you know.
Yeah, Bruce Jaffa outside the city limits. That's a tough act to follow there. I've distributed a letter. I'll try to make it brief, but PACAB will plan a report December on 2024 activities per code. Our discussions will be we'll have discussions of priorities as addressed in the code, and ask council for any recommendations or suggestions on any particular topic that you'd like us to get into. We've begun to dig into possible efficient heat sources. They would benefit residents and the city utility. We had one meeting on that last week. We'll have some more. And we're guided by not just the wonderful idea of eco-friendly stuff, but economy as well. As a subgroup of PACAB, the Heat Loop Committee met with six members. All were enthusiastic to continue the effort to find a way to construct cutting-edge, eco-friendly, and value-benefit heating for the library. We hope to utilize some of the good work already complete and find a professional way to move forward. The assistant manager may have more on that. We don't want to lose a year and a half worth of work that we put into this. We think there is something to benefit. Along with consideration of energy efficiency, again, I suggest that rehabilitation of this particular building's envelope, one of the things that was determined was that this building leaks like a sieve. So rather than thinking about building something from the ground up, maybe just skinning it would be helpful. I would like to put a shout out to Cindy Eklund. That's not on your letter. Cindy represents the East Peninsula at Seward at the assembly. She does this by herself, a lot of driving. She doesn't get enough support, and she's standing by herself at the assembly on a lot of issues where she's one vote against the Flatlanders. So if you can give Cindy some consideration, I'm sure she'd appreciate it. The task with the budget, I won't get too far into that. My eyes go around in a circle, but I'll tell you that I'm old school. If I got $1 in my pocket, I can buy $1 worth of hamburger. If I don't have the dollar, I'll figure out something else. So I think, overspending is something you need to be very careful about, but reaching for the stars is not a bad idea either. So some sort of balance. Kenai Mountain Turning Arm Heritage Area has a website. They did enthusiastically support buy in the area for Christmas, Thanksgiving. They do have a website. I encourage you to look at that. And they've developed some educational programs that will benefit our kids, thereby all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Mr. Clerk.
Pat Mesmer.
Hi, I'm Patrick Mesmer, outside city limits. I'm an employee with the city. I have a prepared statement here. I have served the city of Seward since February of 2006. I have enjoyed my career with the city. Since the pandemic, however, our staffing at the police department has gone down, and we have not been able to recruit and retain officers, partly due to our wages and partly due to the increased cost of living. This has put a lot of stress on me personally, as my workload has gone up quite a bit in the last few years as our staffing has diminished. Last year, approximately 1/3 of my gross pay was in overtime. This is not by choice. It's to cover shifts. It's to be called in for emergencies and standby coverage. I'm averaging about 20 hours of overtime per pay period throughout the year, and I'm a little tired, and I don't have consistent days off. It's part of being a supervisor, but it's a little tough. The low staffing has made our job more dangerous. Last summer, I was called in for an emergency backup to back one of my officers on a gun-related DV call. On the way there, I was diverted to another gun-related DV call. The only backup we had was a trooper who went to back up the other officer, which is what I wanted, but I was alone on one of those calls myself. And that's not how we were supposed to do those. Fortunately, it came out okay. Let's see. Excuse me. In Alaska, police officers are assaulted at 5 times the national average. And rural areas, you're more at risk than you are in cities, believe it or not, because there's less backup. Most of the time, Seward police officers are working alone without backup other than a standby person due to our staffing levels. And our staffing levels are because we're not able to compete with other departments with our pay, and also because of the cost of living is a lot higher here. I'll share another event that happened. In 2020, I had a fight with a suspect who ended up pulling a gun during basically kind of a fist fight with him. And I'm just glad it wasn't loaded. It was stolen, and at the time I wasn't as scared, but it dawned on me later. anyway, it just made me think, a lot of people think our job's not dangerous because it's a small town, Mayberry type, but we do have bad things that happen, they just don't happen as frequently, and when they do happen, we're alone. I'd really encourage you guys to push through these wages. We need them. We need to be able to compete. I'm retiring from the police department in April of '25. I promised my chief to stay that long so we can have a good transition, and I don't want to leave my guys in the lurch. But I do want us to be able to hire people to replace me and other officers who are retiring and moving on. This pay increase will allow the department to be more effective at recruiting and retaining the officers we have. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Clerk?
Shane Hand.
Shane Hand, Inside City Limits. I am president of the Seward Public Employees Association, Local 6585, and also an employee at Public Works Street Department. I'd like to go ahead and thank the administration for the due diligence and dedication to present Resolution 2004-060 to the public and the Seward Council members. Last week, I asked the clerk's office to forward an official statement on behalf of the brothers and sisters of the Seward Public Employees Association, and along with a few few member testimonials testifying, relating to the necessity of competitive pay scales and the general challenges of living in Seward these days. I hope the council members have made the time to read and reflect on the statement. We at SPIA, Seward Public Employees Association, ask the council to vote and accept Resolution 2024-060, and by doing so, affirm the council's recognition of the importance of any and all city workers. It is the consistent year-round programs and services, operated and maintained by employees of the municipality that provide the stable foundation upon which the businesses and citizens absolutely depend on. We are dedicated brothers and sisters committing to serving our community, rain or shine. Please invest in all of us in return. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Eva Ballard.
Hi, my name is Eva Ballard. I live outside of city limits. We live in a town so loved, so beautiful, and so inspiring. Anyone is lucky to come across our beautiful town, so much so that we share it for a bit of every year with tourists from around the world, sacrificing time with our families to hustle our way through the summer season, often missing out on enjoying the Alaskan summers, knowing that tourism is what makes our small community thrive. I think it's easy to say we all agree this is our livelihood. I, for one, am grateful to live in a community with such hardworking people, small business owners, seasonal workers, and so on. Our community would not operate in the same way without their care and drive. Our city workers work diligently to make this community worth visiting. Public Works makes sure the roads are plowed by the time year-round residents even roll out of bed for work in the morning. Parks and Rec makes sure there was always something to do and always a way to get out of the house during these long, cold, and dark days, and so on. I value our city workers and recognize that we would live in a very different town without the dedicated and hardworking people we have. They deserve more. Above all, I value our police officers who make this community worth all the adoration and charm, keeping us all safe by working around the clock, providing a positive police presence, and responding to calls, often missing out on holidays, prime fishing hours, and family time. They are burnt out, and the community members need to care. This raise will provide competitive pay and help balance out the cost of living in hopes of attracting and retaining more people to the city. If our goal as a community is to operate on a short-staffed and burnt-out police department, we will soon not only meet this goal, but exceed it. This goes for every part of the city as well. I hope this concerns the community enough to realize that no matter where this money comes from, it needs to happen and quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, who's next?
Mark Adams.
Good evening. name is Mark Adams. I live inside city limits. I spoke 2 meetings ago, and I didn't have the opportunity last time, so I'm going to duplicate a little bit of that, talking cost of living. But I want to start off with, I made some notes about what were the key complaints for those that I perceived that were not entirely for this or in fact against it. One of the biggest echoing things I heard from them was they were concerned about the end user, and with the higher increase, that means people are going to go visit somewhere else. I just want to pose this question to y'all. When you guys go on vacation, do you look at the hotel first, or do you just go to the place and then find a place to live once you get there? People want to come to Seward for a reason. If they come down here and they say, I'm going to take a 3-day weekend and go to Seward, and they say, oh wow, the prices are a little bit higher, I don't think it's entirely that big. Like, I just flew to Montana when I was looking for another job. Yep. And I chose my hotel after I chose where I was going to go visit too. So just kind of like an antithesis to that one of their statements. I do want to talk about the disparity in the wages again. I do appreciate that this council is looking forward to providing a wage. It sounds like there was somebody that was concerned about this 4% increase, but it's going to come some way, so that's good. I want that to happen. Another point that was made, which is in conjunction with the wage studies about home prices, that it was said that there's an average home price of $400K in this town, with some around $350. Currently on the market, there's only 3 under $400K. Again, I've been on the market since I moved back in July of 2023 with a pre-approved stamp of $400,000 in my pocket based off of supplemental income. It's not what I get paid from the PD. It's something I brought myself. And at that 4 times, the only houses I found have been affordable at that rate has been stuff that requires at least $30,000 worth of renovation. And I'm telling you, I went to Avtech here, guys. I went to the trade, so I got a little bit idea of what it takes to build and fix a house. They'll put a couple over the time. That's kind of cheddar and capital just doesn't really come to everybody, especially when we have a wage study. Most recently, I saw one posted right here downtown, 900 square foot for $435,000. And if you guys saw the pictures on that, what's that layout for? It's a 1-bedroom house with 3 beds inside of it. We know exactly what the house is built for. It's to continue this tourist-based and cost of living house, and we want to try to establish in a community where we want to stay here long term. Again, I grew up in this town. I moved here in 2000, 2nd grade until I enlisted in the military, and I've come back twice. If I leave again, I'm not coming back. And the reason why I'm looking to leave again is because A, the wages don't match the cost of living, and that overstresses, as Sergeant was saying, he talked about personal experiences. If I take off and other officers take off, we're going to lose 24-hour coverage, potentially, which means that when you call 911, you might have to wait. It's already happening out of town when troopers go off service at midnight. Well, hang on, 20 minutes for us to get a call out to you. We need to do something to do that. And that's talking directly to the police department, because that's in one of them. But in general, I want to encourage that anybody that lives in this town should have the confidence they can grow in this town and make it a year-round town versus Vail, Colorado, when it's open for 3 months out of the year for snowboarding season and then nothing, because no one can afford to live there. I don't want that for Seward. I want us to have a long-term community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Lori Draper.
Lori Draper, inside the city limits. I just wanted to come and speak today because last time I was here I felt like I didn't make myself very clear. I wanted to say that I am 100% in favor of the wage increase, but my concern is that we're going to stop there and not do a comprehensive study of our wage and benefit package and how it compares to other places. We know we have a fantastic health insurance benefit and a crappy retirement. But what else is there? There's a huge cost of living. I hear person after person come up here and say that they can't afford to buy a house here. It's a huge problem that has to be addressed, but it also factors into our cost of living. And I just want to make sure that, once this wage increase is passed, that we still continue to look at it. And what are other reasons that maybe we can't retain people in these long-term great jobs? It used to be when you got a job at the city, you stayed there because there was stability, there was good benefits, there was camaraderie. And now, is there something else? And when we do this, I hope we include our employees in the conversation. What are the things that need to change in the city? I mean, I kind of doubt that this wage is going to make the difference from someone being able to not afford a house and afford a house. I'm sad to say. I'm not sure that it's enough. And when we look at this, we have to make sure that we're providing enough wages. I mean, I know the wage study was done. It was a quick thing to do. I know it's complicated. Things are not even. It doesn't mean we shouldn't do it and look at it. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk?
Josh Ballard.
Josh Ballard. My comments are my own, not the Seward Police Department's, and I live outside of city limits. So again, addressing the same thing everyone else is addressing, I would just ask the city to look at the roster that we have at the police department. We have the chief of police, we have the deputy chief, we have Sergeant Mesmer, who just said he was leaving. And then you have 3 full-time regular police officers. You've heard from all of them now that you've heard from me, you've heard from Mark Adams, you've heard from Matt Sesko, and myself. All 3 of us have been looking at other higher paying jobs, right? So Mark makes a good point. Then we have 3 temporary officers who are just temporary employees. Mark makes a great point. Sergeant Mesmer made some great points that I'm just going to kind of echo and piggyback on those. This happened in, gosh, what's that island out there? What's the island? Kodiak, yeah. Thank you. Kodiak has a small police department. They have some troopers. Their police department kept shrinking in size. Eventually, they didn't have much of a police department, so the chief said, we're not going to run a midnight shift. We're just going to run days and swings. We'll run late, but when the people in the city found out that there were no police officers on after a certain time, they were very frustrated. And that changed almost immediately. It was a pay issue there, and obviously, like on a small island, it's hard to recruit people, but we're sort of like an island. We're far away from, like people aren't growing up in Seward and staying here and becoming police officers. It's not the common thing. I'm from out of the area. Sergeant Mesmer's from out of the area. Carl Schaefermeyer's from here. Mark's from here. Matt's not from here. I mean, so we're getting people from different places. We need to retain the people that we have and be able to recruit new people with a higher wage. If you lose the 3 police officers who have currently been looking for other jobs, something's going to change in the police department. Could it happen? I don't know. I'm not trying to be dramatic. But where's the jail? We really don't have one. We don't have a jail. We're taking people to Spring Creek, or we're taking them up to Wildwood. So something needs to be done about the pay so that we can, I recently had 10 days off. I did 2 over-the-phone interviews with chiefs of police in different departments. So it's just a matter of time. I like my house. Pamela Eiding sold me my house. I appreciate all the people, I appreciate Tom Tugas. There's a lot of jobs that come out of these big businesses, and I hope that we can just find something that we can agree on as far as some kind of compromise to raise the pay, but not hurt the local businesses. And that's up to you guys. So I appreciate your consideration, and please go forward with the wages increase. Thank you.
Nancy Halbert.
Hi, my name's Nancy Halbert. I live inside city limits. I think the last minutes I spoke said that I lived outside, but I do live inside city limits. I have a house on Benson. I am a city employee. I've been a city employee since 2019. Since it's been a subject of discussion what the whole employee benefit package is, I thought that I might explain some of that so that people have some frame of reference, because yes, the city does pay for all of our health insurance, but when it comes to the retirement, the state of Alaska discontinued defined benefit pensions for people in 2006. So pretty much everybody that's been employed by the city after 2006 has what's essentially a 401k. It's a 401k with a mandatory 8% contribution from us, from every one of our paychecks. The city contributes 5%, but we're not vested in that until we've stayed for 5 years. There is no hardship withdrawal from that 401k. There is no way to borrow against it. That money goes into this account with the state of Alaska, and you can't touch it until you leave the city. If you leave the city, you can roll it over into something else, but while you're here, you cannot. There are no hardship withdrawals. There are no withdrawals. You can't take a loan against it to fix things in your house. So an 8% mandatory contribution out of your paycheck is pretty significant. The 5% match is an average 401k match, like it's decent, but again, you can't use it, and it doesn't help you until you retire. The vacation package, the paid days off, they are good, but they're comparable to what other people in town are offering. I looked at other jobs this spring as well, so I'm somewhat familiar with what the National Park was offering for their vacation days, with what the Sea Life Center was offering. The health insurance is the one really good benefit that you have for working with the city. I mean, I think historically, the reason that people have stayed in municipal and public service sector jobs, even though they don't pay as well as private sector, is because of the guarantee of a pension, and we don't have that. So I do think that's part of the turnover. We've been very lucky to have some very long-term people, particularly in our police department, and we're super appreciative of their service. But But for those of us who started after 2006, we don't have the benefit of that pension. So I do think, we do provide essential services to the city, and I do think it's a crisis. I saw the $435,000 900 square foot house myself at $500 a square foot almost. Obviously, and I think it's no secret that the price of everything has gone up in the last couple of years. And the city employees, our wage scale is pretty rigid. It's codified by the city council, so we're only getting like a 1.5% COLA if nobody does anything. And I think everybody knows inflation's gone up a lot more than that in the last couple of years. So I appreciate your attention to this. I appreciate you guys listening, and I really appreciate the service of the guys in the police department in particular. I work in the finance department. I know how much overtime some of these guys pull. They really, I appreciate you guys listening to them too. We all appreciate what they do for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Ronda Spur.
Hello, my name is Ronda Spur. I live outside of the city limits, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the Seward Senior Center, where I currently serve as the chair of the board. I would like to thank the Seward administration and the Seward City Council and each of you individually for the financial support that we've received over the years and for the considerations that you're voting on now. The center has been evolving over the last 45 years, and that would not be possible without your contributions and continued benevolence. We offer the older generation of Seward citizens a safe haven where they can come and take advantage of the many services and activities available, where they can interact with each other, staving off the loneliness and the isolation that sometimes comes with aging. We provide nutritious meals in the spacious dining area where you will see activities such as art classes, board games, puzzles, and books, along with music being played, songs being sung, crocheting and beading and creative writing classes, a variety of exercise classes, celebrations of special occasions, and recognition of monthly birthdays. What all of these activities represent is companionship, safety, inclusiveness, and a sense of belonging for the older population. The center, the center offers help navigating the Medicaid program. We do a weekly foot care health clinic and a blood pressure monitoring clinic. Monthly, a local physician is available for a question and answer period with our consumers. We offer classes on the newest technologies to help older folks be able to keep up with what can sometimes be confusing and challenging changes for them in today's world. We distribute monthly food boxes for those who need supplements to their pantries at home, and we help them with filling out the paperwork to facilitate receiving those boxes. The 3-person staff and a plethora of volunteers from the community make it possible for our older citizens using the center to do all of this while maintaining their dignity, their integrity, and their humanity. Outside of the center, the work continues with the important and impactful Meals on Wheels program. This program delivers more than just food to the elderly that are unable to get to us. I have a letter also from our vice chair that she wanted me to read about the Meals on Wheels. And thank you for everything that you do for the older citizens of Seward. We hope that you will visit the center and see firsthand what your contributions are helping to make possible. May each of you have a happy Thanksgiving. This is from J.J. Kaiser. It says, not more than a few years back, when the earth had gone quiet, wrapped in confusion over a fear of a virus, the Seward Senior Center did not stop. For many months, it continued to create, pack, and deliver meals to more than 100 individuals in this community. The meals were not simply delivered to a porch or dropped off near a front door. The people who delivered these meals stood next to their cars and came out and talked with us and smiled with us and shared with us. They took the knowledge of our health back to the center. The dreaded isolation, which could have been dangerous to so many seniors, became one of the most important humane efforts and one of the most successful. Grateful, we continue the work to be key in our ever-growing senior population. We ask here that the City Council support this purpose with an increased budget.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk?
Pat Guilfoyle.
Hi, my name's Pat Guilfoyle. I live in the city limits. I'm just going to piggyback on what Rhonda said a bit. I moved here from New York just over a year ago, and one of the first questions I asked when I came to town was how could I volunteer, how could I get involved with the community. And multiple people pointed me to the senior center. And I've been delivering Meals on Wheels since then, and I just want to tell you what a vital program that is for this town. Me being a non-native, I guess, it's been interesting for me to meet people in this town, people that can't come out of their house a lot of times. Some people are injured, so it's temporary. Other people are going to continue to get these meals probably for the rest of their lives. I've dealt with people who passed away while we were giving meals. I know there are times when I may be the only person that person talks to in a day. So I just want to tell you how vital this program is to this town, and thank you for providing funds for it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk.
Morgan Woodard.
Good evening, Council. Morgan Woodard, I live outside city limits. I'm just talking to you tonight to ask that you approve another position for the fire department. Like I mentioned at the last council meeting, it's been just from the ground level, the amount of work that's not getting done because there's not enough people. It's been killing me. So when we voted to approve that first one, I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. But it's not enough. The reality is the amount of stuff that's going on between the maintenance, aging trucks that are breaking, the training, having to get prepped to train not only myself but the volunteers. Again, my whiteboard hasn't changed since the last time we talked. For example, right now I'm going through advanced EMT class, and that's eating up half of my work week, and then I have to prep for training for another day, so that gives me 1 day a week to actually do maintenance and everything else. On top of that, creating a third position would be a real game changer. Firefighting's not getting any easier. It's getting very technical. There's a lot of training and stuff that goes involved in that. And I absolutely love my volunteers. I came from a volunteer background. I volunteered with the department for 11 years before I went on full time. So, but the reality is Seward's pretty transient, and so we don't get a lot of volunteers who stay for a long time, and so we end up doing a lot of basic training. Having a third career person here would give us the opportunity to start pursuing looking at like technical rescue type trainings, things that we need, but we haven't really been able to focus on because we've been focused on going through Firefighter 1, EMT 1, getting our guys up and running. Additionally, like Chief has mentioned before, it would make a huge difference in our response times. So I live outside city limits. I'm one of the on-call officers, so when I'm on call, I go as fast as I can to get safely, but as fast as I can to get in here, but I'm still having to respond from outside city limits. And if on a CPR call, minutes is lives. If we could have another person, we could actually have somebody at the station rolling, and I could sit here and talk for hours on how important this is and how much we need this. So please consider approving the third position. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk.
Russ White.
Hi, Russ White, inside city limits. I came just to show my support for the wage study and agree with a lot of points that all my fellow city workers have made. But I also came to give you an update on what we got going on at Sports and Rink. We had winter art night last night with all the photographers in town, or I guess amateur photographers coming around, and we showed off their photos, and we had music by Ron Marsh. It was really nice, and I appreciate Res Art for letting us bring that event there, and everyone who showed up and participated. And on Saturday, we did the Grateful Skate. We had many people around town bring food donations that we'll donate to the food pantry this week in light of Thanksgiving. Coming up on Thursday, on Thanksgiving, we have our turkey trot. We teamed up with the Run Club. So if you're looking to get a little exercise in before you eat so much, come on down to Tonsina at 10 a.m. You can sign up beforehand at runsignup.com. or you can sign up the morning of. We'll be down there at 9 a.m. Doing registrations. And you get a pretty sweet beanie with it. And then on Saturday, we have a disc golf tournament as a recommendation by one of the disc golfers in town. So looking for some more signups for that. That's on our regular website, sewer.recdesk.com, and that'll be Saturday at noon. And some new events that we have drawing hour every other Sunday at Rowdy Radish, and that goes from 2 to 4. Our next one's on December 1st. And coming up as well at Rowdy Radish every Monday, we're going to do chess club from 2:30 to 4. So if you're into chess, especially for kids after school, come on down to Rowdy Radish. And then the archery class is coming up, and I know that's really popular, so I wanted to get that word out. That's going to start December 14th. Sign-ups are up now. December 10th. Sign-ups are up now. It's for 8 to 14-year-olds for the class, and that goes from 5:30 to 6:15, and then it's open shoot for kids afterwards from 6:15 to 7, and that will go every Tuesday until April. And last thing I wanted to get out there was the craft fair is going to be hosted at AvTech this year. So we'll be closed down. Sports and Rec will be at AvTech, but the craft fair will be going on December 6th and December 7th. So yeah, get down there and show your support for some of the businesses that are selling there. And, yeah, thank you for the time.
The last person signed in to speak is Phil Kaluza.
My name is Phil Kaluza, inside city limits. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to speak. I've sent some emails, had the clerk email you my comments, but it was such a short notice that I would pass out my comments just in case, to give you a chance. I'm here basically because I strongly oppose deciding to purchase another gas vehicle for Seward. I'm certainly supportive of a smaller, very efficient vehicle for using around town and whatnot, so I'm not opposed to the purchase, just the type of purchase. If anyone in this town would benefit from an EV, it's certainly our electric department. Why wouldn't they promote electric vehicles in Seward? And how better than driving around in an electric vehicle with electric plastered all over it, promoting a more cost-effective, efficient, more environmentally sound unit that not only will benefit everyone, it certainly benefits the utilities by increasing sales and revenue, so every electric vehicle would benefit everyone. I also provided to the clerk some of the evaluations that I used, some of the reports and studies that I used to come up with some of my numbers. So those are available from the clerk if you guys would care to look at those. Because please do your own assessment. Don't trust me, though I think I'm right. So I guess I just want to, I did my homework recently and I bought an EV. Has the city done yours when evaluating what kind of vehicle you should be getting? I think it's your fiscal responsibility to do so. I'd like to comment that because funding for this is not a grant, the money isn't going away. If it takes an extra few weeks or a month to make the right choice and decision for the city that you're going to live with for the next 10, 20 years, I think it's worthwhile. And basically, my conclusion was, I found an EV will save the city $17,500 in primarily fuel and maintenance costs over a gas vehicle. The total cost of ownership is not a purchase price. It's the long-term cost that should matter. So I hope you take an opportunity to consider this before you make a decision on your purchase. And finally, I'd just like to throw in a word I strongly encourage you to continue the funding for our health system in Seward. If you don't have good health, you don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, that's all that have signed up?
Correct, and we're also at the 36-minute limit for that agenda item.
Council, do we want to extend the time or call 36 minutes? Any pros or cons either way? How many people are still wishing to testify, not on the budget, because the budget is coming up. How many are out there?
I think I'm the only one that
Oh,
wants to speak.
would it be okay with you if we let this one person? Okay, come on. We'll let you do it.
Appreciate it. Good evening, my name is Jesse Pike. I live inside city limits, and I'm here basically just to echo support for the creation of an additional, or I guess it would be a third firefighter position. I have been a volunteer firefighter going on 18 years, the last 5 years of which I've been with the Seward Volunteer Fire Department. We have a tremendous group of people with that organization, as well as our partner organizations, SVAC and Bear Creek and Little Point. But I think, echoing what Morgan Woodard said and what the chief has said in meetings past, volunteerism across the board is down. It is not uncommon that we will get a call, whether it be on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in the summer or a miserable, windy, cold 2 a.m. call in the middle of the winter, and only one person shows up. And that is often the one on-call person who we also expect to be in the office at 8 a.m. the next day. So I've seen that in my career, not just here, but in other places that I've worked as well. Secondly, I think that there needs to be a realization across the board, both in this room and within the community, that just because you get several people showing up, as well-intentioned and dedicated as they may be, that does not mean that they're showing up with a lot of experience or a lot of training. It takes years to get people up to speed, whether it's in the EMS world or in the fire world. And oftentimes, just due to the nature, I think, of this community, a lot of transient people, as soon as we get somebody trained up, they move on to something else. And I don't blame them for that. It's just the nature of the business. But that's a realization that I think people need to understand, is that just because you have a whole bunch of people piling out of that ambulance or out of that fire truck, that does not mean that those are people that have the training or the experience to be highly effective. They need somebody leading them. And I think the creation or the addition of that additional career firefighter would go a long way to support that goal. And lastly, I think it's important for a community of this size that's growing to accept that there probably needs to be a bit of a paradigm shift when it comes to our emergency service and fire departments. In years past, it's been a robust cadre of volunteers supplemented by a couple of professionals. I think that needs to do a 180. We need to have a robust professional department supplemented with a handful of dedicated long-term volunteers. And I think that's what the community expects, and it's just the professionalization of the industry as a whole. And that's about all I have to say, and I guess full disclosure too, I am married to the deputy fire chief. So she did not forcefully come here and say this. I'm saying this on my own volition. So thank you very much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, that ends the citizen comment time, that portion. This brings us down to the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. I'd ask for a motion to approve in a second, please.
I'll move for the approval of the agenda and consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any changes anyone would like to make? Yes, Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Mayor McClure. I would like to pull Resolution 2024-067 from the consent agenda.
Okay, so I will move that down to new business resolutions. It will come after 065.
That is correct.
Okay, let me write that down so maybe I won't forget this time. And are there any other changes? Okay, are we ready to vote then? You're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk?
Voting on the approval of tonight's agenda and consent agenda. Werner?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, your agenda and consent agenda have been approved, and approved on the consent agenda were the November 12th, 2024 City Council meeting minutes, Resolution 2024-066, approving the agreement with Robertson, Monagle, and Eastoff LLC for federal lobbying services from January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2026 for $96,000 annually. Resolution 2024-068, authorizing the city manager to accept the proposal from Marine Systems, Inc. to perform an inspection and make recommendations for maintenance on the city's 6 diesel generators for $37,218.50 and appropriating funds. And lastly, no grounds for protest to the renewal of the liquor license for Chinook's Waterfront.
Okay, thank you. We've done the proclamation, so now we're at the city manager report. You can find that on page 6 of the packet. Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to highlight a few exciting events that we have in our calendar coming up. Russ beat me to the turkey trot, but I will say you will be racing against a former women's champion of the turkey trot if you show up this Thursday at the Tonsina Trailhead. I can't promise I will perform as admirably as I have in the past, but I will be there. But then also this weekend we have Shop Small Saturday, which is a really great opportunity to support our local businesses downtown and throughout the whole Seward area. And then following that, at 6:30 p.m. we have a tree lighting right outside here, and we'll have hot cocoa and drinks available and a lot of events at the library as well. So we're really excited to get in the holiday spirit here at the City of Seward and hope you join us at 6:30 on Saturday. But hopefully you join us for the whole day downtown shopping, enjoying all of the festivities. And that's all I have for today.
Okay, any questions, comments from council? I just want to say I'm happy to see the lights going up. They're slowly going up. And
Yeah.
hopefully they'll all be up on the 30th.
Hopefully. I put up one string on my personal house and I was like, oh, this is exhausting. So the whole rest of the city is a daunting task, but we're aiming to get them all set by the end of this weekend. Yeah.
A lot of positive feedback. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, seeing no comments or questions, city clerk report, what you got?
So in the packet is just a scanned copy of the council vote sheets, if anyone out there is curious what the stack of paper is next to my minutes laptop. So they're very rare, very collectible.
And very exciting to read also, yes.
Very cool.
What you might notice during this time of when we're voting is it's a rotating basis on the names that are called. I don't know if people really pay attention to that sort of thing, but otherwise it would be, one person called every time, and I'm the only one that's always the last to be called for a vote, which is exciting and also game-changing sometimes. So, yeah, I mean, if you're, a junkie for meetings, that's a thing, and clerks are that, so.
Well, you mentioned at the last meeting that would be a good one to check out on YouTube, so I thought I'd include the vote sheet too, just to make it
Thank you.
the quintessential, council.
Here you go, and when there are students here, you can always go and review them on YouTube if you wanted to see it over and over and over, so we appreciate you guys being here. Okay, any questions or comments for the clerk? Okay, then moving along, I believe this will bring us to the public hearing for tonight. Does council want to take a break before the public hearing? Anybody want to say yes? Yes? Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute break right now so we can spend as much time needed. The public hearing is the one on the budget. It would be the second public hearing. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes, okay?
Okay, we're back on the air.
Would you bring us back to order, please? We've had a break, and now we're on the public hearing section. We are having our second of 3 public hearings on Resolution 2024-059. It's already on the floor, but I believe, Mr. Clerk, you should read the title in. Is that how it goes?
Resolution 2024-059, adopting the City of Seward 2025 and 2026 operating budget and setting the mill rate. And this resolution had its first public hearing on November 12th, 2024, and the second public hearing will be held tonight, and the final approval is scheduled for December 16th.
Okay. Administration, do you want to say anything now, or shall we open the public hearing?
I can speak to the substitute resolution that was laid down tonight. So after all of our great conversations at our last city council meeting, administration and the finance team went back to look at the budget and the potential for adopting a more optimistic forecasted tax revenue, and we were excited to be able to do that. So tonight we brought forth Resolution 2024-059 substitute resolution, which increases that forecasted revenue to 866 and 891. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. We increased it to 7.65 million for FY25 and FY26. We did not increase any expenses, so we just were able to decrease the bed tax to stay at the same 4% and increase the forecasted tax revenue. So tonight we are recommending that the City Council adopt this substitute resolution and have conversations on that, so that later when we have a discussion about the reconsideration of the ordinance, we don't need to do that as well.
Okay, so I will open the public hearing at this point, and then we will talk about the substitute. I will move that, okay?
Sorry, talk faster.
Okay, so I'm going to open the public hearing on Resolution 059. Mr. Clerk, has anyone signed in?
Nobody has signed in to speak.
Okay. Does anyone wish to speak to, this is, yes, come on up. And with this, you get 5 minutes. And we still need to have your name and where you live.
Yes, I'm Tom Tugas. I live inside the city limits. And actually, I'm not here to talk about the bed tax. I'm here to talk about the hospital. I have a long history with this. As you know, 40 years ago, the 1% was voted in to serve as a safety net for the healthcare here in Seward. 20 years ago, I joined the hospital advisory board because I was concerned about, number one, maintaining a 24-hour day emergency room. There was a lot of talk at that time that they were going to close the emergency room from 11 to 7, and if you had an emergency, my daughter had appendicitis at 3 o'clock in the morning, you had to go to Soldotna or Anchorage. So I was concerned about maintaining a 24-hour day emergency room, and you know, I appreciate the police department, their comments about what would happen if there was nobody on duty during the night. I certainly appreciate that. But I was also concerned that the city had just sold $27 million worth of bonds to build the long-term care facility, and the responsibility to repay those bonds was the community of Seward. Prior to COVID, the city owed Mother Providence $7 million, and we still owed $15 million in bonds. And I was very concerned about, you know, how we're going to pay these bonds because we were getting further and further behind. Ironically, because of COVID, all of a sudden the long-term care facility filled up. Providence has now paid the city plenty to pay off those bonds, which we should all be celebrating. But we still have, you know, the 1% is still a safety net for healthcare. 8 years ago, I went to Anchorage and met with the CEO and CFO as a board member at Providence, and I said, you need to build housing in Seward. And Providence says, we're just the managers. That facility in Seward is owned by the city of Seward, and we're not going to build housing in Seward.
And of course, then I go over to Kodiak, and Providence is building housing in Kodiak. And, you know, I think about, you know, everybody today has mentioned, you know, the lack of housing and the cost of housing. And until we do something about the supply of housing, we're not really going to address it. There's no way to bring the demand is there. The only way we can do it is to bring on the supply. And for example, Larry Harmon is an expert at building 16 plexes. I mean, he's building one right now. He started in October. We'll have people moving in May. You know, if we're going to use that 1%, if we're going to use the 1% to balance the budget, you know, I think it should be a loan, and that, being the eternal optimist, our sales tax and bed tax is going to come in higher than budgeted, and we could repay that loan to the hospital fund. But I really think we need a strategic plan on how Seward is going to maintain its health care over the next long term. Our last city manager wanted to be done with the hospital. What are we going to do about the hospital? What are we going to do about the long-term care facility? What are we going to do about housing? You know, the city has a housing crisis, the hospital has a housing crisis, the prison has a housing crisis, and I really think that the 1% that is reserved for hospital, maintaining the hospital safety net for the community could also be used for building housing. I built the 10-plex over on 3rd Avenue because Providence said they would not build it. But I'd be happy for the city. And somebody said, well, why should the city build it? The city owns the hospital. And as long as we own the hospital, we should be assisting and providing housing for the people that work at the hospital. And so, and I consider that a good use for the hospital emergency funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Since no one signed up, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks. Does anyone else wish to speak to the budget? I'm assuming there's no one out in the hall now because we've got empty seats, right? Could you double check, because this is your shot?
There's people out there, but they're good.
They're just being out there. Okay, seeing no one wishing to speak. Okay, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to council, and I think I'll start by I would like to move, this is the way we word it, move the substitute resolution 2024-059, and I would request a second for that.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do we vote on that?
Yes, this will be like making an amendment.
Okay.
So everything that's different in the substitute resolution, it was kind of like several amendments combined into one document.
But, so to bring it on the floor, we can discuss it and then...
Yep, so now since it's been moved and seconded, now would be the time to discuss the substitute resolution.
And then we would vote on accepting the substitute over the original.
Yes.
Okay. And remember that we still have one more public hearing before we vote on the final budget. So you'll notice within, do you want to speak again to the changes you made?
Sure.
Maybe that would be...
So to highlight, again, so there is a laydown. I highlighted in yellow all of the changes that were made. If you look on pages... So I also had to change the budget transmittal letter, which is the first chunk, to take out references to an increase in the bed tax. But on the general fund revenue page, that's where we'll see the majority of the changes. The taxes were budgeted to come in previously lower, and so they are now increased to 10.4 million overall. On that next page, general fund revenue by line item, you'll see 4000 tax revenue dash sales is increased from 7 million, which was our original estimate, to 7.654 million. And this is a about an 18% increase over our budgeted final in 2024, but still coming in a little bit short of our 2023 actuals to incorporate some of that buffer. You know, while we are extremely optimistic, we do like to make sure that there is space and that we are not allocating expenses on liberal forecasting. We also increased the hotel motel room tax, and we increased the Alaska raw fish tax slightly from $150 to $180 because we did actually get that final document in.
Didn't increase the...
So we increased, oh no, we decreased it, sorry. We decreased it.
That's a very important
Sorry. We decreased that because we got the documents from the organization that showed us exactly what that would be. So we'll see increases on 4,000, 4020, and a decrease on 4206. And something that I would like to highlight, there's no corresponding increase in expenses, but this does still leave us with a balanced budget that covers the wage study expenses. So we didn't have to cut any of the things within the budget to accomplish this. We also, because we increased the sales tax revenue, we increased the transfers to the hospital enterprise fund from $700,000 to $974,000. So that was increased in correlation as well to that half percentage.
Okay, thank you. Council discussion. So you see yes, Councilmember Wells.
I just want to thank administration because I know I can only assume how difficult it must have been when you already had a budget to go through in 2 weeks and pull this off. And thank you.
Thank you. We appreciated all of the input and the conversations. That's how we have a successful budget cycle. So.
And so voting for this just keeps this on the floor instead of the previous one.
Yes.
And we'll have a further public hearing on December, whatever that is, 16th.
December 16th.
Okay, so just so everyone knows.
And so if this does pass, what we would do is fully incorporate it so that the December 16th packet will have this new substitute resolution as the resolution throughout.
Right. And this keeps the bed tax at the previous amount.
Yes.
It does not raise the bed tax.
No, it does not.
Just so everyone's clear. Okay, Councilmember Wells.
Thank you. Just because I want to hear it again, will you say out loud again what happens with the wages?
This still incorporates a 8% wage increase due to the wage study.
Oh, that sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Councilmember Barnwell?
Yeah, just, I think it's, as to Mr. Tooze's testimony, I think it's probably fair to talk about that a little bit. I know we're not voting it till next meeting, but my gut feeling, one is numbers here work to get a balanced budget, which I think is imperative. It's crucial for us to get that 8%. I think all of us are probably galvanized around that. And maybe I'm making a mistake here, but from the way I look at it, if we got into we have enough money to pay the bond for Mountain Haven, so we're safe in that regard. So it's not like we need that full 1% to make sure we're safe on paying off that bond. We're done, which is, like Tom said, it's a great thing. That still leaves us almost $1 million to work with the healthcare fund, and I think that $1 million a year, I think, is a pretty big chunk of change. Looking back, I don't see any massive expenses that could get close to that, or maybe I don't know if we wanted to buy an MRI machine or something. But the other thing is that we can take funds if we got into trouble. We have money in the bank. We've already established that, so we can take those funds to augment or survive that catastrophe. And to housing, I really think Tom's right. I totally agree. I think I would really, as a council, like to visit this and work on that going forward. I think it's a really good idea. But again, we have other funds. We don't need the dedicated funds for the healthcare to get into this housing market. and I know you might argue that it'll disappear into the general fund, and it very well could be, but I think we're a pretty responsible group. I think from the people I've talked to, we're all pretty galvanized that it's a good idea that this makes sense on many levels. So I think I'm pretty comfortable in the decrease to 0.5% personally.
I would like to say that is probably more of a full budget conversation rather than the substitute resolution. So if you wanted to, but it does play into it all. It all wraps in together, but.
Okay, sorry.
No, I think it was a great point.
Okay, Councilmember Finch.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I like Mr. Tugas's idea about that 0.5% being a loan, because one good earthquake, all sorts of things can happen, and the people in this town are responsible for that hospital. So I would like to see the money stay there. If we're going to touch it, like Mr. Tugas said, as a loan. That way, it's an insurance policy for the people of Seward. The other question I have is the Boys and Girls Club. You said you were going to go over and talk to them or something?
Yeah, so we'll have a full presentation about that at the next council meeting.
Right. And we can discuss, as you said, the 1% at the next meeting too. So this is about the substitution and accepting the substitution. Are we all ready to vote? Okay. Mr. Clerk, would you please remind everybody what we're voting on?
Yeah, so we're voting to move forward with the substitute resolution 2024-059. Barnwell?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Wells?
Absolutely, yes.
Warner?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure?
Yes.
Okay, that motion is passed, and substitute resolution 059 is now on the floor.
Okay, so that is available as it is now on the website, correct?
It is available as a laydown on legislative history.
Okay.
And was sent out on Friday, I believe. And then we will have an updated version on the website as well.
So people can read through it before the next packet comes out. That's my point.
Yeah, it's posted.
And then it'll be all incorporated with
It's
it.
posted right by the council packet on the city council page of the website.
Just so people know where to find it, and then they can pick through it. Okay, that concludes that for now. Remember, with our third and last public hearing on the budget will be December 16th. Okay, we are at introduction of ordinances, and what we are doing here, this is ordinance 2024-014, which failed to be introduced at the last meeting, and then Vice Mayor filed for reconsideration. And so, Mr. Clerk, I'd ask you to sort of say what you got to say about that.
Would you like me to read the title?
I think we should.
Okay, just kick things off. So this is unfinished business, the introduction of ordinance 2024-014, revising Seward City Code section 5.45.015A, hotel motel room tax, levy of tax to increase the hotel motel tax rate from 4% to 8% effective January 1st, 2025. So this introduction failed at the last meeting. It was reconsidered, and now it would require a 2/3 vote or 5 out of 7 yes votes just to get it back on the floor. And at this point, we can speak to why it should be reconsidered, but not the merits of the ordinance.
Okay, and first we would need a motion to reconsider and a second.
Correct.
So I'll call for a motion to reconsider and a second on ordinance 2024-014. And hearing no motion, I'll give you another chance. Hearing no motion to reconsider, that would mean reconsideration failed, correct?
Correct.
Which was the
Reconsideration
recommendation, since the
has failed.
4%, the additional percent has been taken off the budget. Anyway. Okay, thank you. That happened. Okay, so that brings us to unfinished business, because we postponed a bunch of stuff last meeting, and this is resolution 2024-060. And when you're ready, Mr. Clerk, could you please read that?
Resolution 2024-060, accepting the proposed classification and compensation study. This was postponed at the November 12th, 2024 meeting.
Okay, so this is already on the floor. It's been moved and seconded to approve. Councilmember Kreitz.
Just want to make sure I have a conflict of interest on this.
Right, and
Yeah.
you had a conflict before and you still do.
Hopefully she still does.
Are we okay with Are we okay with her staying at the dais?
Yes.
Anyone? Okay, but you won't get to vote or participate in the discussion. Okay, so it's been postponed and it's back. And administration, do you want to say anything before we discuss?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to briefly say that we requested that you postpone this so that we could ensure that we provided a balanced budget that still funded these increases off of conservative yet reasonable forecasted revenue, and I know administration and finance did that. So we are presenting this to you again with that new funding, but still excited to see this pass. And I'll let the comments from the staff earlier speak for themselves for the rest of my report from that. Thank you.
Okay. Council, any discussion about this? This would be the time where we're going to vote on this tonight. So I'm hearing no discussions. Mr. Clerk, I think we're ready to vote.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2024-060. Wells?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution is passed.
Okay, so there's that. Yes. You know, so are all the naysayers about us. Okay, that brings us to Resolution 2024-062, and it's been requested to postpone this until the December 16th meeting.
Oh, yes.
And the administration requested that. It was already on the floor. So do you want to just say anything about that? We don't have to really vote on that.
Yes, so we postponed this at the last meeting. I was able to travel with our Parks and Rec Director, Mel Howes, over to Kenai to meet with the Boys and Girls Club on Thursday of last week. And just with the turnaround in the council meeting on Monday, we wanted to have some time to make sure we got all of our ducks in the row. We're going to have a presentation at the next council meeting to showcase some of the transition things that will happen. And the director will be available on phone as well. So it'll be a nice opportunity to have a more well-rounded discussion about this at the next meeting. So we postponed it until the 16th.
Okay, and we don't have to vote on that.
Nope.
It's just been postponed because that way we'll get all the information. I know people have been asking, and then we can discuss it then. Which brings us to two more items, or a few more items. New business resolution 2024-065. Mr. Clerk.
Resolution 2024-065, authorizing the city manager to establish an additional full-time paid firefighter/EMT position.
Okay, administration, you wanted to...
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to direct this to Fire Chief Kreitz.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Hope third time's a charm. We're still obviously in need of that third position, mainly to make it go 24-hour coverage, 365 days a year. That way we know there's always a fire apparatus responding for medical calls, fire calls, rescue calls, and just looking for your support in getting up to the 21st century. Like I mentioned, August of 1960, they were talking about needing paid personnel. So we've been kicking this can quite a few yards down the road. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Okay, I would need a motion to approve and a second before we can discuss it.
I'll move for the approval of Resolution 2024-065.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Yes, Councilmember Finch.
Last meeting, you mentioned that City and Ketchikan had 8 firefighters. Now, their population is 8,000. I would like to see the city focus more on, if we're gonna compare other cities, let's compare to, let's say, no more than 1,000 above our 2,700.
Yep. And I've reached out to other fire chiefs, and it's difficult because we are pretty unique in the size of our town, that there's not a lot comparable departments. I will say that thanks to Assistant City Manager Minkling, found a Peninsula Clarion article Friday that the Kasiloff residents, which I would say would probably be about that same amount of people, at their board meeting were demanding at least 4 more paid firefighters. They have 1 right now, and they want 4 total. So the borough is looking at that. So again, Homer, a little bit more than us. They have 3 on a day. Yeah, Palmer, they're a little more than us, and it's hard to find that 2,700 people department that's covering.
Thank you, ma'am. That's why I have this laid out here as of June 2024. This is the top 60 cities in Seward, Alaska with their population. You know, we have at 3,600 Mill Bay, Petersburg 3,300, Big Lake 3,200, Eielson Air Force Base 3,000. We can't compare to that because of the military funding. Esther's 2,900, Contribute's 2,900, Goldstream's 2,700, Ridgeway's 2,700, and Seward being the 41st on the list, 27. Farm Loop is 2,500, Cordova is 2,470. Why aren't we trying to be, I mean, the numbers are right there.
Okay, I have reached out to them, and I've gotten some data from some fire chiefs, and some have not responded back from me, and the ones that I have included in my report. So I can't speak to all of those. I do know the departments that you mentioned, most of those do have full-time paid fire departments.
Okay, and how?
Meaning at least 2 people on duty a day.
Okay, and the last budget, we got one, this budget, we got one, and I've had prior retirees in the city that are saying the city cannot sustain right now of 2 in this budget, and I agree with them.
And I'd like to direct that.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. If we were to authorize this third paid, well, another full, how does that affect the budget, and where are you going to find the money?
Yes, so we this year in the budget had already planned to do the 1, so that has been budgeted for. We also have a, sorry, let me find it real quick. The stipend for the firefighters that was increased, but with this position, we would be able to decrease that significantly to cover that, as well as a lot of other little areas. So we would have to bring back an amendment, but it would be a reallocation of the funds towards this position within his fire department. But overtime would be able to go down, the stipend would be able to go down, and different things along those lines. So I'm confident we would be able to have that funding for that position, and confident in the growth of our city that we would be able to support 3 staff, 3 full-time firefighters, which would be about 1 per every 1,000-ish people in the community at a time, rounding up to 3,000 based off of summer residents. So that is the plan in my head, if this passes tonight, is to bring back some amendments, to bring back line 7806 down a little bit, and go from there. My finance director is shaking her head at me because she's probably going to make me do it in a different way, but we'll be able to accomplish it if so.
Well, I have a question. Can you find people to apply for this job?
I absolutely can. I have applicants already waiting.
I'm seeing nods. I mean,
I do, yes.
it's a question.
Yes, I have applicants, 100%. And you know, it was mentioned, I think Mr. Tooze kind of mentioned it the last meeting. You know, we are super conservative on our budgets, right? We really save a lot. It's time to start making some action in the city, and whether that's projects such as sidewalks, hiring personnel in key positions that we need. We've got to stop we act like we're broke, and we're not broke. We're healthy. We're pretty dang healthy. And I just would like to see the city council support, you know, public safety in general. I know the police department's struggling, and we're struggling too, you know. We're struggling to find coverage 24 hours a day, trying to have somebody run that call, come to your house when you fall and trip on the ice and pick you up, when you're having chest pain, when you have cardiac arrest, when you have a fire at your house. We want to get someone there as fast as possible.
And it's not just the fire, it's the emergency
We do it all.
stuff.
We do it all.
Just so people know. I mean, we don't have that many fires, blessedly, but we have a lot of slips and
We
trips and
do,
falls.
we do search and rescue. We've gone out and got hunters. We were just out in the bay getting a stranded goat hunter just a couple weeks ago. Pretty much if you name it, we've unclogged toilets before. So pretty much if you name it, we'll come out for it.
I just wanted to mention too.
Not for you.
About whether or not being able to find personnel to apply for the position. I will say that just historically, the time that we've been here in the last 8 years, the volunteers that we've trained, I've seen those people apply for Anchorage. I've seen those people move out of state after they've gotten their firefighter and EMT training with us. So we don't give them the opportunity to become a career firefighter here. So they go somewhere else after we train them.
Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, I just want to ask if when you hire a firefighter, can you hire a firefighter with EM2 credentials, or is it typically EMT and then they work up towards the EMT2 or beyond?
So currently, the position reads firefighter EMT, so that would be an EMT1 in the state of Alaska. As I think you heard, firefighter Woodard on his own is going through right now a EMT, which is advanced, one step below a paramedic, so a little bit higher than an EMT3 here in Alaska, but one step below a paramedic. So the opportunity and the education is out there, and we have, through the Labor Department, we have grant opportunities to send people to not only advanced EMT school, but paramedic school for free. The Labor Department is going to cover that, and so some job descriptions may be rewrote in the future to reflect that. But right now, it's an EMT basic, and if they choose to go advance their career, then I, of course, 100% support it, and we have the funding to help support that.
Okay. Sure.
I don't know how much you can speak to this, but can you speak to the firefighter, how the relationship with SVAC and firefighters, and the need for an additional firefighter in relation to SVAC?
Right, so they're struggling just like we are. I mean, it's no secret. Everyone in the country's struggling nationwide for fire and EMS volunteers. They do a good job about sending 2 people every time to an ambulance call. Rarely have they not, and we have driven them. Or the patient may be critical enough to where they need us to drive them to the hospital, so they have 2 EMTs or paramedics. They don't have paramedics, excuse me, 2 EMTs in the back of the ambulance, and we drive for them. So it's a pretty critical relationship that we work together. We go to every EMS call that's paged out in the city. Being a city department, it's our duty to respond to all the calls. Sometimes we just show up and we stand there and support them, and stand back, and if you need something, let me know. Sometimes it's lifting the patient for them. Sometimes it's doing the CPR. Sometimes it's taking the vital signs, but we're there to support them.
Good question, though, because any further discussion? Okay, are we ready to vote? Looks like we're ready to vote, Mr. Clerk.
Voting on the approval of Resolution 2024-065. Kreitz?
Yes.
Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, that resolution has been approved.
Thank you, Mary.
You were very convincing. Okay, so our last resolution was moved from the consent agenda. It's Resolution 2024-067. And Mr. Clerk, when you're ready, could you read that, please?
Resolution 2024-067, authorizing the city manager to purchase a 2024 Ford Bronco Sport for the electric department for meter reading and customer support functions in the amount of $30,710.
Okay, I need a motion to approve in a second, please.
I'll move for the approval of Resolution 2024-067.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Administration, you want to speak to it, and then...
Thank you. I'm going to invite Taylor up to speak to this. Taylor is the operations, or, yeah, plant supervisor.
All right, Madam Mayor, members of the council, I actually had a lengthy discussion earlier today with concerned citizens about not getting EVs. So I thought I'd just kind of give a background to this. We took the meter reading over to our department from the finance department and basically just need wheels to go read the meters. We do a drive-by for the majority of the meters, and then there's a handful, like 200 a month, that don't get read by the RF reader. And so our employee goes out and has to do a manual read. So this is a vehicle just to drive around town, collect the reads, and then basically just get from point A to point B and get the numbers back to the office. And then there's a little customer service once in a while that could happen. But so anyway, the Bronco Sport was the vehicle that James Unrein found to be the least expensive vehicle that will be reliable, that they can maintain for 10 years. If we go with the EV, I just did a quick search today on what's available up here. There's a Chevy Equinox that's $49,000, and we could pick that up. We're happy to drive an EV. You know, I actually am a prior owner of an EV. I fully support them, but in this case, we were just looking for the most economical vehicle that we could purchase to do the job. So I'm good either way with whether we get the Bronco or we get the Equinox or similar vehicle. You know, in the future, we have to get a half-ton in January. I'd be 100% behind getting a Lightning. We're looking at like 76,000 versus like, you know, 45,000 for a half-ton Chevy. But if that's the direction the city wants to go, I'm 100% behind it. And like I said, we're the electric department. We fully support EVs. When I put this resolution together, I was just going for something that's cheap that we can, you know, pick up by the end of the year. But
Can you just stay there for just a second? Because I should bring it to Councilmember Warner first, because she's the one that pulled it off, and just to speak to why you did, and then there are going to be questions if you just stay for a second, okay?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I pulled it off. I drive an EV. I have the Ford Lightning. I am an advocate for them. I think they're great in lots of ways. I'm not exactly in opposition to the Bronco, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to have this conversation and see, is that a direction that city wants to go? What would be the community's interest in the city going in that direction? And just to kind of learn a little bit more about some comparables that are out there to the Bronco. So more so for discussion than opposition.
Okay. I know there are questions, so who was first? Okay.
You said, and thank you, by the way. You said that the vehicle's just used to run around and read the meter. And when this first came up, I was curious why we weren't just getting a pickup. And then, so I know that there's people, citizens that have that same curiosity. So if you could explain why you went with the SUV over the pickup, and then follow up with, you had stated that it's just to run around, so it's minimal miles, right? So minimal expense, minimal fuel. An estimation on miles used per year.
yep, so I mean, when we do a meter read, we're going to Lawing and back. So it's, you know, it's a little bit of a drive, but, you know, not a ton of driving. We've been using either a 3/4 ton or a 1 ton truck for this task. And so we're trying to pull that back. And, you know, in the past, before I got here, but a lot of people in management thought that everything that was done in Seward had to be done in 1 ton. And, you know, I know for the supervisor truck, I've got a 3/4 ton that a past manager got, and it's like a rough ride everywhere. I'm not towing anything. I'm not hauling anything in the bed, you know, and so it's like a lot of extra fuel that we're spending to, not for any, you know, added benefit. So we're just trying to scale that back from having all the big trucks, you know, to something that's more fuel efficient and economical to purchase. So we can try to conserve that budget.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Councilmember Kreitz. And
I think the only question I had was, the vehicles that you have in the electric department now, are they serviced by the city, or do you go to SoDOT or to a dealership to have them serviced?
Yep, so the vehicles we currently have are serviced in our department. So our plant operators are also vehicle mechanics, and they're also substation technicians.
So is the electric vehicle something that they can service, or they qualified to?
You know, I'm sure there's a class that we could send them to and get the hot sticks out, and but the thing is, electric vehicles have to be serviced a lot less than a ICE vehicle. So I mean, that's part of the selling point on the EVs is like, I owned a Chevy Volt, so it was actually a hybrid, but I went 5 years without changing the oil in the engine because the engine just ran for like maybe 30 minutes every 6 months when it had to, like based on the computer. But so anyway, like you can get like a lot more time in between maintenance on an EV. So that's like the good selling point to it. Now, the Ford Bronco, we can go to Napa, we can get oil filters and oil and change that. We can do the tires and everything in-house. So there's like trade-offs either way. Like I said, I didn't put a lot of thought into the vehicle other than the price and the reliability, but EVs are reliable, ICE vehicles are reliable. I'm good either way, but just up to the city on what you want to advise me to do, and I'll go that direction.
Well, okay, Councilmember Finch.
So this vehicle will be on, say, at the 10-year motor pool plan, correct? So it'll actually outlast electric battery if we had to replace the battery, which is a very high expense. And it should put off, over its 10-year period, less carbon emission than what it took to dig up the ground and build it. Am I correct?
Well, I mean, are we talking about like Chinese mining techniques?
The amount of emissions used to create one, people have forgotten all of that to get to that.
Well, he probably isn't an
Yeah, I don't have
expert
the
on that.
numbers.
What if we were to postpone this and ask administration to come back with a suggestion for an EV in comparison, and then we could vote on either? Would that be, yes, Vice Mayor?
And I would just also want to state that you'd have to have a charging station. So there's a little expense. I don't know that it's a huge amount, but it's an expense anyways.
So I think one of the,
You have, yes, Councilmember Warner, you have a.
So when you do purchase the EV, they come with, for part of the purchase of the vehicle is a level 2 charge, or what they call level 2. So it would just have to, I mean, they're kind of long, it takes about 11 hours on a level 2 to charge, but plug it in overnight and you're fully charged in the morning to start the day.
And there are several stations around town where you can charge.
And worst case scenario, we have a level 3 at DC at the chamber, which can
Right.
charge in about 45
That's one of
45
them.
minutes. Yeah.
Right. Councilmember Finch.
I'm good. I mean, I fully agree with what he's saying instead of driving around, because I've watched them, they're getting beat up in a 1-ton to do just short little runarounds. I fully support them getting a little Bronco Scout to run around in. I mean, why postpone it?
from an administration standpoint, my one comment would be I'm excited about these conversations, but in the past, historically, we try to go for the cheapest option, you know, the most not cheapest, but the most cost effective over time. And so if we are looking towards becoming policy driven or moving our policy more towards EV driven, I would definitely want to set up some policies in place of saying, like, here's what you would get, here's where we would charge it, here's where the charging is put. So I think there's definitely a lot of, like, if we brought back another resolution, we would have background work behind it as well, and some other things that we would have to put in place. That doesn't mean that we as an administration aren't all for that. I think this could be a really good first step to exploring that policy. I don't know what the timeline that Taylor had of hopefully getting this done. I do know that we have transitioned that meter read over there, so the sooner we can have them not driving around in the 1-ton trucks, the better. But kind of just timeline-wise and policy-wise, because I would like to have some background before we just start going and buying EV vehicles, because if we do that, I don't want this to be the only one. I don't want this to be, oh, we had this conversation, we bought an EV, and then we have one in the whole city. So it would be more of like a policy-driven discussion.
Councilmember Warner.
Thank you, Mayor McClure. I just have one more comment. So on page 183 of tonight's packet, the capital improvement plan motor pool, it does lay out a few vehicles here in the future that the city would be looking at purchasing in 25-26. So whether we go with an EV for this specific one or not, I think there's opportunities in the future to also purchase an EV if that is a direction that council and the community wants to go. And then that would allow our electric department to get what they need so they're not driving around in the big trucks, but then also allow administration to look at some of those policy pieces that that we would need to move forward if we chose.
So if we were to vote tonight for the Bronco, then we could give direction to administration to begin developing a policy for EVs. Does that sound like a better plan? Councilmember Wells.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that's absolutely correct, that if we're going to analyze the EV, then we should do it as a community and take the time to weigh it all together. But let's get them out of the the monster truck now, and I mean that alone right there. It might not be an electric vehicle, but it's less fuel, it's less everything, and they can get to work.
I just remember the discussion where we had to get those big trucks, and
Yeah.
you know, things have changed, that's all. Okay, so what say we vote on this? Are we ready to vote? Okay, would you please read what we're voting? State
Okay,
what
so
we're voting.
you would be voting on the approval of Resolution 2024-067 to purchase the Ford Bronco. Finch?
Yes.
Barnwell?
Yes.
Kreitz?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
Osenga?
Yes.
Wells?
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes,
Okay, that resolution has been approved.
and can we append to that?
Would you like to give administration direction to start crafting and researching a policy for purchasing electric vehicles in the future?
Yes.
Great.
Lots
Thank
of
you.
nods.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
One last business item, and that is other new business to discuss the heat loop project and the ad hoc heat loop committee. Say that 10 times faster. So administration, which would be Mr. Bicklin, I'm pretty sure on this one.
Yes, thank you, as Kat leans away.
But take a break.
Yeah, so just kind of I mean, I think most of us know where we're at on this. So long story short, the city has made kind of investment and time and community investment in this project, and unfortunately, we're in a situation where we kind of have some pieces that we can't really move forward from. And so we do have two recommendations to discuss the steps for administration regarding the geothermal heat loop project, and then discuss future of the heat loop ad hoc committee. And so I'll take those in order. But in order for us to really like move forward or actually get just an honest, be able to make a good decision about this project, we need to have someone basically come in and take the different pieces and put them together. And come up with kind of an economic evaluation with integrity, so that way the city knows like what the whole project is going to cost, also like maintenance costs, and like how much it's going to cost to run every year. But also in my conversations with Heat Loop Committee and also one of our project partners, NREL, which is from the Department of Energy, they said that you should also just not focus on this piece of the project, like the project as it stands, but also like scalable designs that are available within that project. As also with their economic evaluation options. And so like if you look in the possible next steps there at the end of the memo, we have been awarded congressional designated spending, which doesn't mean we get free money. It basically means that we have some grant funds available that we can apply for. And so it's still the same complete project. And so my recommendation, my ask to council is that the city would apply for these, get the go-ahead to go ahead, and that way we have the money, or we will hopefully get the money. But then we can go ahead and have an engineering group, and NREL is willing to partner with us as well to look at the project and come back with some options and some honest economic evaluations, and that way like good decisions can be made around the project. And so really like looking at when it was just rolled out, the application process, and so the application, the approval process, and then hire the engineers to have them look at this and do the scalable and all that kind of stuff like that. So it's not something that's gonna be done next week, I would imagine, like, the turnaround for this with the application process for the federal government and everything like that, it's probably gonna be like looking at about a year. But I don't think it would, I think this project is worth us taking a look at and at least coming up with something that we can have an honest evaluation of. So,
That's part one.
yeah.
Right? And you're saying this would mean applying for grants, so we wouldn't be spending any money until we got some more money to fix the problem, right?
Yeah, we basically, like, this grant is through HUD. It's an economic development grant through HUD. So we basically have to apply, say, here's our situation, and we would like to get this money to do these things so that we can have an honest look at our project. And so it's based on the approval of that, and then once it would get approved for that use, then we would go ahead and go through the process of finding an engineer or an engineering group, likely, to look at this and do that.
So then part two of your proposal would be, or what we have to discuss is what do we do with the ad hoc committee? And the ad hoc committee was created because of the grant.
Correct, yeah, it was.
So you want to explain that?
Yeah, so the ad hoc committee was a requirement for the Department of Energy grant, because you had to have a community committee for that.
And there is no grant anymore.
No, there's not.
So, and they sunset, the committee sunsets at the end of the year, so.
Correct.
We could allow them to sunset, and then if we get the grants to further do research, then we could redevelop a committee at that point. This is kind of what you're recommending, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know how long
Right.
how long it's going to have us to get
Rather
information
than have them
back.
sit there for a year, whatever, and, yeah. So what do you think?
So, yeah, we do have interested people, but I don't know if, I mean, honestly, like, I don't, in the next year, I don't know what work would be done, so.
Let me start with Wells and then.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The timeline is so up in the air, and although the committee has done a great job, absolutely, no doubt about it, but if and when we have another opportunity at a grant, at that point, we should, put it back out to the community and restart that process.
Reestablish it.
Yeah.
Because.
There could be new people. There could be who knows what.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam. No, this is just a hurdle. I think we should continue forward with all of it, because the long-term gain for the city will pay out in the end, and we have other countries looking and seeing what we're doing. So let's keep it going forward.
Councilmember Barnwell.
If we do disband the group, I just want to make sure we acknowledge these guys put a ton of work into this project. I mean, for years, right? And,
it's been a while.
Yeah.
I was at one of the last meetings that they had, that they were getting ready to present, and it was such a it was just great to be a part of that and watch that crew and the synergy and all of the work those guys have put into it. So I just really want to make sure we acknowledge somehow that we understand.
Yeah.
It must be a really tough situation for all those guys.
Right, and the thing I didn't understand initially is that that group is dependent on working for that grant, which is now not happening. So that group, by the very fact of that, has to cease as an ad hoc committee for the grant. So, but that doesn't mean that those people aren't still interested, and as soon as we can do something, we could get that back together. Or we could decide at any time to reform a committee, I guess.
They could be reformed with a new mission based less directly on the grant. That could be something that's discussed as well, of sunsetting the group in its current form, but unsunset or creating a new group with less strict parameters to have a wider breadth of research.
Would it be suggested maybe to ask PACCAB if they want to discuss that reformation of a committee and bring it back? I'm just throwing that out there, but.
And it may be a good, when we get this engineer in this group, to bring back like the scalable designs and the economic evaluations of those designs, that might be a good task for them to
Once we have concrete something.
dig into, yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, their last meeting, I think they were talking about heat loops. And then we're talking about electric cars.
I know.
So maybe that all fits together.
Okay, so what do you need from us?
Basically, I just kind of need the nod of approval that you guys are good with me pursuing this grant, so that we can get this project to at least come out of something with, so that we have a solid piece of information to make decisions around.
Yes.
Yes.
So, okay.
Great. Okay. We're good?
Absolutely.
All right. Wow. Informational stuff. Our next meeting is going to be December 16th. Do we have any kind of work session associated with that? Yay. So 7 p.m.? Which brings us to citizen comments. This is your time. There's no sign up for this, and you get up to 5 minutes. You don't have to take the whole 5 minutes if you don't want to. And just raise your hand if you want to speak, and they'll call you up. And it's the usual, we still have to know who you are and where you live.
Jeremy Rogers, Inside City Limits. First off, I just kind of want to thank council for pretty much everything tonight. You guys have been pretty stellar, but passing the wage thing, getting another firefighter, that one's kind of huge. I volunteer with Seward Fire. I also volunteer with SVAC. All of our call volumes are going up. We're building a lot of new homes, a lot of plans for new homes, which means more people. So I just wanted to say thank you for getting that position going, because at the end of the day, we would be behind the 8 ball without somebody there on staff to direct the volunteers. So the volunteers are great. I enjoy what I do, but a point of contact at the scene is going to be huge for those of us that are there. And like I said, with that volumes going up on pretty much everybody's plate, we were going to end up behind the 8 ball, and there could have been something disastrous. So I just want to say thank you. And the wages are cool too.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Shane Hand, in City Limits. Always like meetings because everyone gets together and we all brainstorm, and multiple minds are better than one. I like to echo the idea that Mr. Tugas had when it came to the city's obligation for providing housing, for either whether it's hospital, emergency workers, or whatnot. He had mentioned how well Mr. Harmon was at building 16 plexes and this and that. And I think that's all fine and dandy, and it helps a lot with some of the transitional, transient, less temporary workers coming and going, whether it's traveling nurses, people working seasonally and whatnot. But I also like to encourage the idea of what it's like for a family of 4. Family of 5 moving into Seward, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, trying to put 2 kids in a room, they each have their own room, this and that. And I believe like a 16-plex might not necessarily, alleviate that problem. But I do like the idea of baby, and this has been brought into me, outside of this chamber as far as ideas how Seward itself the city of Seward itself can help its employees. And retention is like maybe there is a way where we could use some of our properties, some of our resources, taking loans against our own funding and this and that to build not necessarily homes restricted for city owners city workers or whatnot, but maybe to that extent, whether it's maybe something a little bit more significant than a studio apartment for someone that's just here temporarily, but more for a family that's coming here to start what could potentially be a 20-year career, and maybe make it a lily pad or a jumping, somewhere to jump from, and get started and then wait for something else, rather than cramming new family or coming families coming here into these smaller spaces because it's only what's available. So I do like the idea of the city maybe, looking into the idea of investing into housing themselves and providing that for people who provide sewer services for the community. I want it to maybe be expanded a little bit beyond just the 16-plex idea necessarily, and maybe a little bit more for larger families.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Morgan Woodard, outside city limits still. No, I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate both the wage increase and personally, and more importantly, the position. I know it's just one position, but it's going to be a huge shift for the fire department. So I'm really looking forward to getting somebody on board and working with them. And the offer still stands. If any of you guys want to see how the sausage gets made, please come by and we can show you some stuff that's going on with the fire department. So thank you.
Anyone else?
Can I just...
Shanahan, inside city limits. I forgot to say thank you to you all tonight for the work, administration, council. As a city worker and a local union rep, I do appreciate everyone's work over the last few weeks. And tonight, everything coming to fruition, I really appreciate it. And I did not want to not go right and say
Well, that was worth your coming back. We like to be there. Anyone else? Whoops.
Go ahead.
You could do it together.
Yeah, we can. I think it's my first time.
Yeah.
Sule Hussein, outside city limits. I just wanna thank you all for all. I've been seeing more and more involvement with the community and council. I have never seen this before. I have lived here for 14 years. And this is big, and I'm very proud of working within the city. I also want to know that I shake my head about the fire, not because of we can afford it, we can. It's just I would like to see too that the public safety is all for all, including the police department. Any kind of insight about police retention, or why not? I know this coming year we will have several people retirement, so I would like to see something within the budget, but other than that, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Alan Nickel, outside city limits, Chief of Police. I just wanted to say thanks to council as well for the wage passing. You guys helped a lot of people tonight. I wanted to say thanks to Kat and Suli as well for really scrambling and getting this done quickly. I can't say I've ever been quite so nervous about something when it comes to the city stuff. You know, I understand how many people that this can really help out. So you did a good thing. On the housing thing, I think that that's the next thing that really needs to get tackled, and you know, kind of to what Shane was talking about. I agree. I personally feel that if there's any way possible that we can figure out a way to get some of our land over to a developer and get it so that a structure can be built without Davis-Bacon wages.
Yeah.
Because it kills us. And so if there's any way we can figure that out, that's the way to go, I think. And then on the EV discussion, I just wanted to say that part of my fleet, I have a hybrid vehicle, and if I could get away with it, I would name it the Antichrist and put a sticker on it. This vehicle is one of the newer ones in my fleet, and it's been down probably as much as it's been operational.
It is the bane of my existence, and I hate this car, and I cannot wait to get rid of it. And I have 2 cars sitting out there right now that should be going on the chopping block. As I hope you guys are aware, we've had a couple more Tahoes arrive. So with the new Tahoes coming in, I need to get rid of a couple cars. Rather than get rid of one of the ones that I should be getting rid of, I'm going to get rid of the worst of the old ones and the Antichrist. So, yeah, I urge a little bit of caution with this move into EVs, because I don't think all of them are that great. So there's still potential for a lemon. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council and administration comments and responses to citizens' comments. So, Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the entire council for showing your support of our employees. Contrary to what you guys might think, they are the reason why I love my job. Not you, no. And I'm really grateful that we are able to show that support for them and all the work that they do to make our community run year round. So thank you, and have a happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Mr. Bickling.
Yeah, again, just thank you for supporting our employees. It's what makes us all, what makes our city go, and we have a lot of, they're great people to work with. And I did want to mention too, just to follow up, is Kat and I have been having a lot of conversations actually on the housing front, and we do have some ideas that we're going to be bringing to you in a work session for some ways that the city can be involved in developing kind of that like Shane said, that interim housing piece, where if someone needs a place to land on the way in and they have a place to stay that's comfortable for all kinds of like whatever your family looks like. So we do have some good ideas that we've had some conversations with some people. So we're excited about bringing those to you in the coming year, in the new year, and see how we can tackle that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Warner, can you start?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I took some notes. So first, I just want to thank all the city employees and all the citizens that came out today. You guys have definitely made this a interesting start to my term as a city council member. So thank you for coming and spending your time here with us. I also want to say that I agree that not all vehicles in the city should be transitioned over to an EV. Specifically, our public, our police officers, you guys are doing so many things, you need reliable vehicles. However, I do feel that there is some potential within our electric department and our Parks and Rec department to possibly make a transition to some of those items. And then speaking a little bit on the housing, I think this is an important thing to note. At our most recent PTA meeting, it was brought up that there's roughly only 24 children in our kindergarten class in Seward. I graduated in 2007 and I had 52 kids in my graduating class. So I think we're really going to see this housing affect our year-round community. And 24 kids, that's maybe, we have 2 kindergarten teachers, but that could drastically affect our staffing at our school. And then I just wanted to touch on Bruce Straffa, had mentioned the Kenai Mountain Turnagain Arm Association. They're amazing. They're doing great things for our Seward youth, and I highly encourage everybody to check out their programming and possibly support them. And that's all, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Kreitz.
I wanted to congratulate the track team. It's kind of nice to see all these sports teams coming in #1 in the state, so we're doing something good there. I want to thank administration for the budget. It was nice to see that we were able to do the things that we needed to do, and also not put the bed tax in the picture right yet, and maybe have some more conversation on that. And the competitive wages, I think that's going to be great for the city, and keeping people here and not looking for other positions. And happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, Councilmember Barnwell. Could you hear tonight?
Did we start yet? Yeah, it was great. It was a great meeting. We started, if those of you don't know, we were at a work session from 5:30 this morning.
This morning?
Sorry,
This
sorry.
morning?
He can't hear.
Sorry,
But again, really cool to see the community coming out and testifying on these great issues. And kudos to Kat and Jason for getting them out here. I mean, you know, like they put it out there and made us really kind of hash over some really interesting things tonight. And it's democracy in action. I find it really interesting and fun to be part of. Congratulations to the cross-country running team. Congratulations to the ad hoc committee for all their work they've done. And I really appreciate it and hope we can get them back in and get that going. I do feel for those guys. Oh, and the fire department, wow, that's great. Yeah, I wasn't convinced, honestly, the last meeting, but after thinking through it and in the need for the medical, you know, or SVAC support, it just makes total sense. So that's cool. And I think that's it. So yeah, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Councilmember Fitch.
Let's see here. Well, I know for 30 years I've been here, we've always had a housing shortage, and something has to change. Or we're going to be, you know, like everybody says, Aspen or Girdwood. You know, I think Girdwood just implemented some things up there that Seward might be interested in doing concerning housing. But, you know, I'm glad we got the budget or the pay raise approved. The firefighter, I'm still a little iffy on, I'm worried about us being able to maintain that. And I am, if you really look back this year with Seward High School, there is something in the water. Okay, look at all the wrestlers, the basketball. It's nonstop with those guys. So whatever the water department's doing, keep doing that. Okay, but please, if you're driving, be careful. The roads are slippery. If you go fire department, you know that this morning. Please be careful driving. Take your time for your Thanksgiving and have a safe Thanksgiving.
Councilmember Wells.
I am too emotional.
Do you want to come back later? Okay. Vice Mayor.
Start off with thank you, administration. I think we accomplished some things that took an awful lot of work on your part, and I really appreciate that. Congratulations to the girls cross country team. That is something that's pretty fantastic. Don't forget Shop Small this weekend, I think, and the tree lighting ceremony. Is that this weekend too? Also, on that note, the Seward Community Band will be playing at the library at the tree lighting ceremony. So before, yeah, if you want to get some community band Christmas music, come on down to the library. And I hope everyone has a wonderful and joyous Thanksgiving.
Do you want to wait till after me?
I'm good.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay. Well, yeah, we did a lot tonight. Once again, you see how the system works. I came in convinced one way and changed my mind radically. So, you know, it happens. This was a really good meeting. I didn't mess up anything yet. It could happen. It was a good discussion about electric vehicles. There are definitely two schools of thought on this, but I'd like to pursue it more. I have a good friend that has one, and more people are getting them, so we'll see. Well, since he brought it up, Saturday's a big deal, and as president of the Historical Society, we're having an open house Saturday from 12 to 2. We're sort of occupying the community room and the museum, and we've got a group playing Christmas stuff in the community room, and I'll be doing pump organ stuff at the museum, and we're going to have punch and things. That's from 12 to 2. Take a break from shopping, come in there. They're showing a movie, Elf, I believe, at 3. And then the band later will be playing, and there will be kid activities at the library, kind of a later open house. And eventually, there's going to be, correct me if I'm wrong, hot chocolate and things here around 6-ish. And then I get the opportunity once again to be with the chief to turn on the lights for the big tree, and there's going to be some excitement with that. So Saturday's a big deal. It's one of those things I get to do besides sit through meetings, which is like a lot of what I do. But also, I want to put a plug in since he's talking band. We won't be meeting until my community choir concert happens. So December 12th, save the date. You'll see flyers around. And if he wasn't leaving town, Tom Tugas would be singing in that choir, but he's not going to be around apparently for that. But you'll see flyers. It's going to be at the Ray Building Auditorium, December 12th at 7 p.m. free. And it's a bunch of community people singing Christmas stuff, and that's what I do. Thanks for everybody that came out, and I'm going to give you one last shot at speaking.
I'm just proud to be a council member today.
That warms me, thank you. And on that note, I will adjourn the meeting at 9:09, and happy Thanksgiving.